and the session is being recorded. So that looks good. And we are at 10 o'clock. So I'm going to get right into sharing my screen with you all. And welcome to becoming a caption captain today. Today, we're going to learn about ways that you can use captions for all in video content. I do want to point out, if you're not familiar with Google Slides, there is a feature here in the closed captioning where I can just press this CC button. And as you can see, as I'm speaking, the captions appear. What I want to tell you is that when you're presenting or if you're teaching and you're using this as a workaround, is to really make sure you're speaking clearly. You've got a good microphone like I have. I do want to do a shameless plug for Think Right. I just bought this and I really like it. The audio is great. The mic is good. I did some videos yesterday with it and I'm very, very impressed. And it's a very affordable headset that you can use. So that is Google Slides. Captioning here. You can change the text position to the top or the bottom and make the text size. I tend to set my size to extra large for captioning because what I'm doing is I'm designing with disability first, work with a lot of kids with visual impairments. So this is something in the design would work well for them. So I just make it available. So let's get into this. If there are questions in the chat, someone could unmute and just say, hey, Hillary, there's a question in the chat. That would be great. If you'd like the link to the collaborative notes that are on the spreadsheet today, you can link that with the QR code. And if you would like the link to today's presentation, you can also use a QR code for that as well. So I'll leave this up for a few seconds so you guys can access that. You'll have view-only access to the slides, but there is a ton of resources and information that's available to you as we go through our session. So the goal for our time together today is to empower you to become your own caption captain in order to make video content accessible for all of your learners. We're going to go through the who, what, when, where, why, and how today, give you some resources. And if we have time for a demo, I'll do a little demo on some workflows that I've found to be very helpful in terms of making our caption content more accessible. I'd like you to take 1 minute and come up with a goal for you. You can post it in the chat or you can keep it to yourself. I hope you have a goal in mind for our time together. Let's talk about who captions benefit. I love that video. That just explains things so well about captioning, and you really get to understand the importance of having them when it comes to accessing, engaging, and expressing, not just for you, but for our learners as well. Who do captions benefit? Well, everyone. And like the video had said earlier, captions don't just benefit the deaf and hard of hearing. And there are many benefits to transcribing and captioning your online video. These are resources in the slide deck that you can access on your own. They are from 3Play Media, and that's one of my favorite go-to resources to look for best captioning workflows and practices that are compliant with WCAG and also with civil rights legislation as well. But let's just get this clear. Captions do benefit everyone. While they are designed for our friends who are deaf and hard of hearing, they do benefit other learners as well. And that's something that's important to note, and it's a shift to note. So what are closed captioning? What are they?
Let's begin with just the very basics. So what are captions? So captions are text that has been synchronized with the media that is presented while watching the video. Captions assume that the viewer can't hear the audio at all. And so the objective is not only to convey the spoken content, but also the sound effects, speaker identification, and other non-speech elements. Basically, the objective is just to convey any sound that's not visually apparent, but integral to the plot of the video.
Okay, so with captioning, I love 3Play Media. They just say it so clearly. Captioning should also include any audio. So if you are doing a screencast, for example, and you're typing and you can hear that, you're going to want to put in parentheses in your captioning typing, or any pauses, or there's music. Just note that, because that's giving someone who can't hear access to what's going on in the video, to that audio content. So it's a different way to display what that audio content is beyond the spoken word. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later on. So when we use captions as a feature for all, we're talking about universal design for learning. And universal design for learning is noted in Every Student Succeeds Act as one of the best practices for teachers in ways that our learners can access, engage, and express in their learning. And in the UDL guidelines specifically, they provide specific guidance around using video content and the ways that we can use video content. As we've shifted to hybrid, remote learning, all kinds of learning, and really rethinking what a learning environment is, we're using video content as a way to access, engage, and express, whether we're flipping our classroom, whether we're personalizing learning or blending learning, or making it part of universal design. We know that videos engage learners, and they provide options and choices for our learners to access, engage, and express what they know and what they understand. If we drill down into the UDL guidelines under the engagement guidelines, we're looking at a particular checkpoint, which is 1.2, and that's offering alternatives for auditory information. So more importantly, when we're making sure our video content has closed captioning first, we're not waiting, we're captioning that as part of our video creation workflow, we're honoring those who are deaf and hard of hearing. But we don't have to await or to ignore the importance of having video content with captions. The other caveat is those who may need an additional literacy boost or need focus in the video content do ultimately benefit. And there's research that supports that I've included in the slide deck for you today. Especially some learners with ADHD, having captions on helps with focus, but also helps to access print in a different way because it's text-based. If you remember when you were kids, I don't know if you're my age and grew up in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a show called Casper the Friendly Ghost, and there was a music show, and it was Follow the Bouncing Ball. And so the music would be on, and the words would appear, and there'd be this white ball that would just bounce across the screen. That's literally kind of what captions do when you have that running at the same time. So whether you're a teacher and you're putting storyline online, for example, turn the captions on. Or if you're having a YouTube video where someone's explaining something, turn the captions on. You're watching TV with your, turn the captions on. You're getting another additional literacy boost. And the research is starting to show that that does help with reading fluency and it does help with comprehension. So where do captions belong? Any and all video content. There's an example there for you. That's with 3Play Media that you can click and access. And I don't know if you can hear, I'm hearing some typing in the background, so I don't know if someone could mute. That would be kind of cool. Thanks. So there are several studies, as I've said before, that captioning and subtitles help strengthen the following reading skills. I mentioned fluency and comprehension, but there's more. Reading speed, which is fluency, word knowledge, because you're also getting a visual of the words in context, so knowing what those words mean, decoding skills, because I'm seeing it and I'm hearing it and it's getting into my brain, acquisition of vocabulary. This is great for English language learners. I don't know how many of you have heard stories of people who don't speak English as their native language coming to America or coming to an English speaking country and turning the TV on with closed captioning and learning language that way. Word recognition is another one, and reading comprehension. So understanding what we're reading, and then those oral reading rates. So the ability to read orally also improves when we're using captions as part of the learning environment in our video content. It's very important. And it's very encouraging to see the research that's coming out that supports this. Why do captions matter? This to me is the biggest one. And this is usually where you can get some buy-in from places, is that it is civil rights law. If you are an agency that is receiving federal funding, such as a public school or any other agency that receives federal funding, a university, any of those, you must provide captions in your video content. It is a civil right. You must provide meaningful access for individuals with disabilities first. I could go into audio descriptions and alt text for visual impairments, but today we're going to focus on captioning. We must provide that, and we must teach our staff how to make captioning happen and create meaningful workflows for them so that their videos are captioned and that they're accessible to all of our learners. The community that I'm in, we do have members who are deaf and hard of hearing in our staff, in our community, and in our learners. So it's really important for us to make sure that our video content is captioned, and having those workflows really, really matters. So we've said before the literacy part, I've talked about the civil rights part, the improvements in focus, having options to language and perceptions. It's another way to acquire language. And what captioning does honor the variability of us all. I love having captions as a clickable feature, meaning I can turn them on if I need them and I can turn them off if I don't. But they're available for those that really truly benefit or like that. I'm noticing, on social media, I tend to be drawn to videos that are already captioned because a lot of times my phone is muted. I don't have the sound on. So how many of us are on social media and those videos are not captioned at all? Imagine that being your whole existence all of the time, that I can't hear anything because I have either hearing loss or I'm deaf and have a disability that prevents me from accessing audio content, such as me speaking right now. That's got to just feel awful and not honoring who I am as a person. So if we think about that this way, then isn't providing captions an act of love, an act of respect, an act of showing that we honor each other for the variability that we all have within us? Because some days I need the captions, some days I might not. It all depends on my focus and my ability to understand, access, engage, and express in something that I might be watching. So it's just really important. So these are really good points that you can bring back to your teams to talk about with them and share with why this is so important and why we need to, as institutions and schools in particular, not just teach how to make videos, but how to make accessible videos, and do that as a forethought and not an afterthought. And furthermore, teaching our students how to caption their videos or to provide tools that already have the captioning available for them so that it's there for them in a clickable type of feature. So how are some ways you include captions? Embedded as a feature is my favorite because it's a clickable feature. I can turn it on, I can turn it off. Flipgrid is one of my favorites for that. I'll get into that a little bit more. Book Creator also has captions embedded now. YouTube has always had captions embedded and editable. Edpuzzle, you have to make sure that the videos that you've created are captioned. If they're not, well, then there's another issue. Clips, Apple Clips is a free app from Apple that has that in, and it's an editable captioning feature. And then I showed you Google Slides, and Microsoft PowerPoint also has them. The beautiful part about the captioning in PowerPoint slides is you can change the language. It blows my mind. It's wonderful. You can also include captions after or during a recording. For example, today's session, we're using Rev captioning service to caption our session today. If you're using WeVideo, you're going to want to upload that to YouTube to make sure your captions render. There's another service called Capwing that will also do that, but that's not a clickable feature. The captions just show up on top of your video as opposed to clicking them on and off. And Streamer is another service. Otter AI is a transcription service that I love to do longer captioning files. I can upload an audio recording and it will generate a transcript for me, and the accuracy is 95%. It will also denote speakers, which you can train Otter AI to do, and those transcripts are editable, and then you can upload them right into YouTube or your other platform that you're doing for your captioning video content, and it's there as an option. Don't forget your social media. I've also put a resource that I developed with the State Department in their English language programs, and it's about social media accessibility. Some social media platforms are now including captioning. For example, Facebook has some, but not quite yet in their live streaming service. Instagram does not yet. LinkedIn is terrible. And Twitter has announced that they are doing some auto captioning features in probably 2021, but they are actively involving the disability community in that and how that would work and how that AI would work. They've recognized that they need to make more improvements in accessibility and that they're working in partnership with the disability community. And that's something that's really important to note, is that it's not designing for, it's designing with. So co-creating is really important when we're doing
Hillary,
that.
it's Mia.
Yes.
I'm
Hi,
looking
Mia.
at the chat here, my love. Someone asked if you are able to drop the link in the chat regarding what you were just talking about, Sam Kelly. She said, can you drop the link in the chat, please?
The link to what?
I'm thinking what you were just talking about, but I'm not sure.
About social media. It's in the slides. It's linked in the slides. I can go back really quick for a second and give you the QR code. Was that helpful?
She said the link for the social media accessibility that is hyperlinked on the slide.
I can do that in a moment.
I know, right? Okay.
I'll be happy to do that in a minute.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks, honey. It's good to have friends. I will do that in just a second. I can't see the chat, so I appreciate that, Mia. Thank you. I'm just writing myself a note so I don't forget. Okay. On to the next one. So there's a lot of tools that we have. There are a lot of tools that we have. And I'm going to go through a couple of them. And then we'll come back to this. Flipgrid, Book Creator, YouTube, Capwing, Web Captioner, Streamer, Screencast-O-Matic, Rev, Clips, AutoCap, Caption This, Otter AI, and Screencastify. So let me do this for a sec. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to take that link that was asked. There's nothing in the chat. Hold on. Yes. LinkedIn coming. Wow, Sam, good to see you. Yeah, they do. I know YouTube does. Facebook is they're still all right. There's the link. No, I can't unless I look at the chart. I can paste the link in, but in the beginning of the slides, it was there. I'll paste the link to the slides for you again. Unless I have email in the doc, I can do that. But if you're not in the guided notes, then I don't have access to your email. But I can get that to you. But let me just come back here. If anyone would like to put something in the chat about a tool that they would like to see with captioning. Zoom. Yeah, no thanks me. I just, Cheryl, put the link to the slides right in the chat for you. Zoom, what we're using right now is the Rev Captioner. If you would like to see Flipgrids, I can show you Flipgrid. Who would like to see? I didn't see that, Kit. I'm so sorry. I did not see half of these chats, so I'm very, very sorry, Kit, that your captions were not working. I did not know that. Okay, let's go into Flipgrid. Really quick. All right, there is that. I want to get to my Flipgrid tab. Okay, so let me just do something really quick. This is a free tool called Web Captioner. So I don't know if anybody has seen Web Captioner before, but this is what Web Captioner is. It's a free kind of tool. And what I'm going to do is I can put this here, and then you can see how the captions are running. I also have ways that I can change my settings, change the volume, change the break. And then what I can also do with this window is I can resize this. And I'm going to make a little caption bar so that people can see while I'm in another tool. So just give me a sec. Bear with me. I'm going to show you a little trick. I was trying to show this to Mia yesterday. So now I've got my Flipgrid bar here. And I've got my web captioner underneath it. The problem is that Zoom captions are running. So what I really want to do is flip this around just for the purposes of today. And it takes a moment, it takes a little bit of practice. That's my family. All right, so here we go. Now I have the captions running above what I'm showing you with Flipgrid. So if the captions are not working in your end for Rev, now we can use Web Captioner while I'm doing this demo here in Flipgrid. So I'm just going to show you one of my courses that I'm doing. This is what I've used for my online course. I'm doing a course in Universal Design, and we did an introductory post. And so I'm going to go to my video.
Hi
Hi, everyone, and welcome to SED 505, Universal Design for Learning. I am your instructor for the course, Dr. Hillary Goldthwait-Fowles. I'm really glad that you're here. Notice in my video. Now, what you don't notice is that I didn't edit the captions. Shameful, because it was not automatic. But what I can do is in Flipgrid, in that particular topic, in my introductory topic, when I look for my video, which is on the bottom, I can go to Actions, Edit Captions. This is on the teacher side. I've sent a message to Flipgrid that I would love for them to make them editable for students so that they get to practice writing in a different way, but a more purposeful way. So notice when you've got this here, you've got your caption edit. So I can edit this right in there. I can add my punctuation. I can combine if I want it. I can go here and just kind of listen. It's okay. I'm not wearing any makeup. I just got back from a walk. I'm a little sweaty. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just be yourself. I've been an educator for 26 years. I am starting year 11 as an assistive technologist. I might want to capitalize that or not. And then I can also just tweak these. When I'm done, I can go right to update captions, and the captions are updated. And then I can just go back to my topic right when I'm done. And I can do that for any of my student videos where I can edit those captions. I can also download the captions in Flipgrid and make it a transcript. So let me just stop my share for a sec and just check some questions here. Yeah, you don't. Thanks for answering those questions. And thanks, Sam, for piping in with additional links and resources. I appreciate it. Good question, Carly, as a question. How about kids with hearing loss that are also using streaming devices? Yeah, let's talk about that after. So Flipgrid, Nancy, to ask your question. I was just, so Flipgrid is actually video. It's a way for you to post a video and then kids respond through video. It's very engaging. So for asynchronous learning, we've used it where a teacher is doing a read aloud, for example, in 4th grade, and then is reading the book aloud. That video is then captioned. And then students have an opportunity to respond to that video using the captions, or recording the video, I mean, and those videos are captioned. And teachers have the options to set those videos where students can respond to each other or not respond to each other. And it's just very cool for that anytime, anywhere learning. That's one way we've used Flipgrid. You can use it for math. You can also share your screen and do some screen recording in Flipgrid where you have those captions and they're also editable. So then you could also set up tutorials and stuff in Flipgrid. And I can show you that in a minute if you'd like. The interaction between Web Captioner and Flipgrid, there is none. What I was doing was putting the captions above because somebody had said the captions were not working earlier. So I was just demonstrating what Web Captioner does. It's basically an open window, and when you speak, captions just kind of appear. It's like Google, it's kind of like what I showed you earlier with Google Slides, and they're not editable. They're just live. So they're live streamed in that way. Does that make sense? Awesome. Does anybody want to see another tool or a demo or have any questions that they want to ask now? Because we've got about 10 minutes left and I'd like to give you guys time for questions. You can post them in the chat or you can just unmute yourself as well.
Hi, I have a question,
Sure, Cheryl.
and I apologize for the noise in the background. I'm working from home, but the plumbers are also here today, so it's a little noisy, so I apologize. Hopefully they'll stop soon. But my question is, so I use GoToWebinar and their transcript feature, and I was just wondering your experience. Sometimes I have problems with it where, and I've reached out to IT and I think it's them and not me, but like I have to edit it a little bit at a time, save it, and then edit it, the transcript a little bit more. Um, and also for live webinars, or I guess even recorded webinars, but is there a feature within GoToWebinar that I can do a live caption?
That is something that you have to talk with IT. I do not like GoToWebinar at all. In fact, there's a company that I used to do some work with that I no longer do because they use GoToWebinar, and I didn't like the fact that was live caption. What I would do is I do all my stuff in Google Slides and I run the captioning that way, just so it's there. It's not perfect, but that would be something, Shaw, I'd suggest you talk with your IT department about, and maybe they might want to consider a different platform. I am not a fan of GoToWebinar at all, just for that reason, because the captioning workflow is very, very tedious and cumbersome, and it's a lot of back end stuff that I don't know. I know that it's secure, but I'm not a fan of it personally.
Yeah, it does take a long time to
That's
fix the
that's
transcripts.
that's my own preference. What I could suggest, Cheryl, is that you could run Otter AI, which is a free tool, over your recorded, play that recorded webinar, let it run, and then edit the transcript that way. That might take you less time.
What was that called? I'm sorry.
Otter.ai.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The free account, you're only allowed a certain number of minutes, but they do have an educator account for $4.99 a month where you're allowed unlimited like time recordings and transcription. I think it's super slick. You could also run your system dictation, but I find Otter to be way more accurate, and you can just let a recording run and go do something else and then come back to it and edit it. I've done that a few times where I've had some teachers who have had videos that weren't captioned and they were too long for my captioning software. I just generated a transcript with Otter AI and it made those edits and included, the moments where there wasn't speaking, but there was audio anyway. I hope that was helpful. Yes, we'll definitely talk. Definitely. Carly's got a good one. Anyone else might have some thoughts about combined hearing and vision loss, because we have a few in our district too, and we can definitely connect. Nancy wanted to talk about Clips. And Apple Clips is a free app that you can get right on the App Store. It works on iPhone or iPad. And I will show you really quickly from Apple what that looks like. Let me just share my screen really quick. Okay, so basically Apple Clips is video recording software. And this is just from Apple's Clips site here. You can put, some visual elements here. But here, this feature right here that I want to show you is where the live titles are. So when you go to record, before you do, you want to click on that. And that's where you can choose from different settings of live titles. They call them live titles. After you're done recording, you can click on that again and you can edit those. Depending on your model of phone, you can do some different animated things. It's very cool. I just like it for its ease of use, versatility in terms of that. And you can put photos together. It's kind of like a lighter version of iMovie, and it's free. So it's a good one to do when you have like an iPad or an iPhone. I do like that. That one is one of my favorites in terms of that one. So let me just get back to, how many of you have to do screencasts? or use screencasting software. In our slide deck, there are a couple of ones, and I'm just trying to get things reconfigured and back up for you. Okay, let me just share. How many characters would you recommend maxing out one line? Sam, you've got the best questions. How many characters would you recommend maxing out on one line in a final? I think it depends on the size of your file and the length of your video. Oh, yeah, let me get back to you on that one. That's a good question. All right. Sam has got like the best questions. I think it's got to match up with your audio, really, and where it's at. I wouldn't put too much unless it's kind of grouped together, but we can definitely talk about that. So we went through some tools. Some of your screencast tools, Flipgrid does offer screencast, means you can record your screen and have yourself in it, and then you're good to go. Screencast-O-Matic is similar to Screencastify. We have a site license for Screencastify in our district, and let me just do this. There. So now I'll just turn those captions on and that'll run. So Screencastify we're using to screen record our screens. What we do is that we then take that and we upload that video. It works right with YouTube, so you can connect your YouTube account to Screencastify and it will upload it straight to YouTube. What you can do is put the title of the video, how it's listed. I generally list my videos as unlisted because they're meant for specific either students or parents, and then just a brief description. I let it upload and then I give it a little bit of time to render because YouTube does have auto captioning, but they're not perfect. Once the auto captions are done, I then go in and edit those in YouTube and I save them. And actually, when I'm done, I will post a couple of those videos that I've done in the chat for you. That's specifically for Screencastify. Here are a couple more resources. I like to give you guys resources. You can take a look at these at your leisure. If you have questions about them as you're looking at them, the next slide will have my contact information. These are also resources that you can share with your teams, your teachers. You can share with administration, really to get the word out about why captioning is so important and why we need to include it in our video content. And I'll give us a few more minutes for questions. This is me. You can find me on the Twitter. There's my website and email address as well. I am always available to answer any questions you might have or to talk about workflows that make the best sense for you, because a workflow that I might do that works well for me might not exactly work for you. And so I'm happy to kind of look at that and tweak that so that it helps make the most sense for you, but that the goal is the same, that we're creating accessible learning environments that honors the variability of all of our students. So I am going to stop sharing. I'm going to go into YouTube really quick. Who do I look for caption advice? Sam, oh, that's a good one. Luis Perez. Sam, go Luis from the AIM Center. I also go to the National AIM Center as well. That's where I've gotten the bulk of what I've talked about today, is pulling from that and finding workflows that work me. That's the best place. The AIM Center is the National Center for Accessible Educational Materials. And they are from CAST. I will put that in the chat for you guys, because they really talk about the importance of accessibility as a forethought, and they give you workflows that really do work well. They do a lot of their stuff comes from the WCAG guidelines, but also 3Play Media. So when they're using like the acronym POUR to design for accessibility, which also includes like the captioning aspect, they're getting that language specifically from 3Play Media and making it relevant for educators. So it's a little bit more robust that way. Let me put quickly in the chat for you a couple of videos I just made yesterday, now that I'm thinking about it. And this might be helpful for you in your screen casting. If you're doing a screencast workflow with YouTube, so how you edit your captions in YouTube as well. Thanks, Mia. Yes, absolutely. In the state of Maine, we have the Maine AIM, but we're linked to the National AIM Center. Your state AT programs, of course, if you're in New Jersey, you know it's Mike and Naomi, so they're a huge resource. A lot of times, too, with captioning, we have CART. So we'll be using CART captions, and that's a professional captioner. That can be a little bit, it's costly. So we're looking at different options for that. Maxing out on one line of captions and a final SRT. So Sam, are you uploading that SRT to a particular site? Are they YouTube captions, or are they just to have them as a transcript? Or are they in LinkedIn? Because that's going to kind of determine where that goes. And usually those SRTs, depending, will have timings. That's why I like Otter AI so much as a transcript to do that SRT work, because it has the timings in it. And that's why I like editing YouTube's captioning within YouTube, because the timings are there and I don't have to think too much about it. So I don't know if that's helpful. Does anyone else have any other questions or any other thoughts before we break? I know it's a long, busy day. I know I've given you a lot of resources and information and shown you a couple of workflows. If you would like to do something off of this session today, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to schedule either a meeting or some sort of opportunity to discuss a little bit more off of this and help you figure out the best workflows and the most accessible workflows so that you have accessible content for your learners. Yes, Carly, I will put my email at the chat, in the chat. There's my email for you guys. I'm glad that this was helpful. I hope this was helpful for you. I know I gave you a lot of information because workflows are different depending on the task. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. I'm really glad. Oh, in Florida. Good to see you guys. Thank you all for being here today. Don't hesitate to reach out and, either Twitter, email, whatever. Thank you all so much. Glad you all were here, and enjoy the rest of your day.